Yeah, are men even marriage minded? I mean, you catch cats out here and putting off marriage into the late 30s at this point, unless they, coming from the military somehow. Teenage military men still engaged. They
higher paycheck, man.
They high school sweetheart. That's what it is. It's a cash grab.
I just think it's a cash grab in the military, 100%. But no, I think there's a percentage of guys who like the idea of being married, of it being long term, being something more than just casual sex. I mean, for a percentage.
That's not a human goal. You don't think that just humans in general just want to pair off and build nest?
No. I don't think so, man. It sounds good. But I don't think that guys are, they say that guys were marriage minded. I don't know where the benefit in marriage actually come from, especially from a guy's point of view in recent years after, women's rights, feminist movement. It's a lot on it, man.
So you're saying that there's no benefits to marriage that stand out, like historically, obviously, if we're dealing with North American traditional, marriages based off like a 1950s model, where a woman handled domestic duties and a man handled factory work and brought home the check, and therefore he was serviced by this woman, mother, wife, that somehow that's not desirable anymore?
I think guys probably still want it, but they're not going to find that in women.
They want that 1950s model?
I think they do, and they find themselves not getting it. Like, she's not going to shut up and be quiet and cook your dinner for you.
Easy.
Hey, straight to the moon.
Easy. That was straight on network television.
Yes, it was. I think that that's the model that people have, and it's dated. I don't even know if it was real then, but it's completely dated. It completely disregards the fact that women have rights, as they should, right? And that when they fought for those rights, they pushed the ideal of feminism and womanhood further than men. Like, men have been stuck in the same roles forever. You can be a provider and a protector. That's what it is to be a man for most people. Like, that's what we're being judged on. I feel like women push the envelope and they say, hey, I'm a mother, respect it. Life comes from me. Like, I'm intelligent, respect it. I can be a business person, respect it. I can be anything. So essentially, even though Barbie gets a bad rap, they are Barbie. If you look at Barbie's everything. Barbie's a doctor, a lawyer, an astronaut, a cop, so disregard the unrealistic proportions, and that's what women pushed on us. So we have to respect everything they do. For guys, if you're not making money, if you're not a protector, then you're less than a man in most people's eyes.
Wow.
Yeah, so those are some very narrowly defined roles. And if we're stuck in the same roles that we've been stuck in since the 50s, but then women have progressed, now you're catching women, of course, they're career oriented, they're making money. They don't need you to provide for them. It's not, you know what I'm saying? So that's one of the
providing doesn't just is just not material.
Yeah, it's not just monetary, but that's kind of how it's judged. Like, it's
so you're saying there's because I would expand providing for someone to be activated on multiple levels, you know what I'm saying? Mind, body, and spirit, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So obviously contributing to the economy of the household, but also the emotional and informational, you understand me, resources as well, you know what I'm saying? Being there, being compassionate, being helpful, being informed. That's a form of providing as well. But you're speaking about the narrow monetary home economics, like get your paper up,
because that goes out. Having the other parts go out the window for a lot of people if that one thing is not in place. The other characteristics don't come into play until that's in place. Oh, he's a good provider. Okay. Oh, and he listens to you. Oh, and he's intelligent. Oh, and he's emotional and he cares about your needs. Oh, okay, that's a good guy. Or that's really good. But if he's just, oh, okay, he's really sensitive about my needs and, information's good, but it's like, yeah, but does he pay rent though? Does he pay that mortgage? No. You got a deadbeat on your hands.
So men aren't marriage minded to date, or their marriage definition is outdated, outmoded. So therefore, they don't see value in marriage. Currently,
well, I think both parties' ideal marriage is outdated. Because if you're saying what was they say what's the pros and cons of marriage, right? If you did a 1950s pros and cons, it would be like, oh, you're gonna get a wife, that's sex on demand, that's a home cooked meal, that's a mother to raise your children, your household's gonna be taken care of. Like, yeah, wow. It's a
built-in servant.
Yeah, built-in servant. And
I dream a genie.
Yeah, and that's why it's based off that monetary are you provider, because you're paying for this house. Your check alone can afford that house. It can afford to clothe and feed 3 other people plus a dog and a cat and a car or 2 in the driveway, right? And that house was going to get paid off and you was going to get a retirement. So your money was paying for that. You was technically buying a service, but it sounds a little crass. And what are you going to get nowadays if you marry somebody who makes the same amount of money as you, more money than you, who has an opinion, who has the right to voice that opinion, right?
And who doesn't have time to do all that domestic duty
cooking and cleaning because they at work too, doing the same thing that you're doing. So you're not getting none of that benefit to it.
So one of the onlyest benefits appears to be a joint income. So I guess you can hire a maid, hire a nanny to teach the babies. Like, what?
You can do all those things if you got the income for it. I mean, but then once more, what makes having this marriage viable? Then, like, are you spending time with this mate of yours? Does she have time?
Sex on demand isn't enough?
From what I hear, sex ain't nowhere to be found.
Oh, married couples have sex less. That's
what they say. It shouldn't be that way. You would think that it would be some guaranteed, sex, but it's not.
Guaranteed, is that the word we're going with?
I mean, that's what I came off the top of my head with. But
or was that built in? Was that an understanding in your standard marriage from the 1950s? Is you get a wife for guaranteed sex and guaranteed home meals?
I think so.
So it was a sexist institution, damn near.
I would think so. It was patriarchy, and nowadays, if you look at it, I talk to women all the time. They're not going to go for that. They're not going to go for not having a voice in decisions made in the house and it being sexist, and they don't feel like having sex. They're not having sex. It's, whether you married to them or not. Like,
so more men you feel would be interested in marriage percentage wise if it had similar guarantees that the 1950s model had. So modern day man, you know what I'm saying? Today's man, this decade's man would be more interested percentage wise if he had the same deal on the table where a woman would service him.
Same deal. And let's talk about this. Like, let's say the marriage don't work out, because a lot of marriages don't. Mm-hmm. And now, back in the 1950s, the children would have went with the male because he was the provider.
Is that true?
Yeah. It was there.
Wow.
They had to fight for them rights, and it flipped. It didn't go even. It didn't say, let's balance this. It just turned all the way around. So it used to be where, how are you going to take care of children? I'm the only breadwinner. You need to go find somewhere else to be. The women weren't getting the house in the divorce. The man was keeping the house. He was keeping the children. He was going to move in a new wife to help raise those children. Right? They fought for that. Women fought for that. It flipped. So now the children, majority of the time, are going to go to the mother because they have monopolized nurturing as one of their traits, as if that's not just a human quality, and men can't be nurturing, right? So now it's like, the children should go with the mother because somehow the mother is more important than the father in the child's life, which is flawed. It's like you need both parents, but everything's laid at the male's feet, though, right? Like, she acts that way because she didn't have a father in her life, or he's acting out because he don't have a father in life. But the children go with the mother, and that should be a balanced thing. Then you talk about child support, and you talk about alimony, like, or you get divorced and she takes the house. Because she has the children, and it's like, wait a minute. So I don't know why the guy would sign up for that risk, and especially since you can actually go to jail behind child support. Like,
so you have marriage becoming less attractive,
less desirable
because it doesn't have the benefits of, say, a marriage from the 1950s.
That, and there's not a need to it. In the 1950s, like, you didn't just have readily available pussy. Like, honestly, like, there was more of a you can court my daughter. There was more structure with that. But the women's movement, the feminism says, you know what, we are not going to be bound by society's like rules on our body. It's our body, so we can be sexually free. That freed up having to get married to have sex. There was dudes that weren't having sex until they got married.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, that's the story they tell.
I thought the whorehouse always existed.
Well, the whorehouse, yeah, but who wants to be at the whorehouse all the time?
The person who wants sex.
Right, but now...
when it was shunned to have sex outside of marriage.
Yeah, but it's no longer shunned. And therefore, you no longer need marriage.
So men were only getting married because of sex.
No, I'm sure that they had traditional values behind it, too.
And somebody to cook for them.
Raise children with.
Produce
children with.
Clean their laundry, to launder their clothes.
That's the dream that was sold.
Wow. So women broke out of this nonsense arrangement.
As they should have.
Redefined themselves, redefined what marriage would look like for them. And now you're saying that men have yet to navigate this redefinition, and therefore they're lagging behind. And
well, I would disagree with women redefining what marriage looked like, because you catch women all the time saying, I want a traditional relationship, I want a traditional marriage.
And by traditional, they mean
1950 values.
Wow.
Cookie cutter, Leave It to Beaver, Bewitched, and it's like, well, you don't fit that mold. So that's one of the problems too. You don't fit the mold of 1950s, but you want that type of relationship. You want a husband who was a breadwinner and da-da-da-da, but you want to make the rules because you are a functionally adult who, have rights and a mind and opinion yourself.
So the previous marriage arrangement seemed to have been based off the fact that women didn't have viable income.
Yep.
So it was even more appealing for the woman, in essence, because she had to find a husband to increase her chances of survival economically, since there was limited work for women at a particular time in North American history. So there was an appeal for her to kind of be in this institution of marriage in the 1950s.
It was a safety thing.
Whereas now she can afford to live on her own and make her own decisions without entering into this arrangement. But when she decides to enter into this arrangement currently, she's not bringing the same resources that, say, a wife was required to bring into a marriage in the 1950s. Like, she doesn't have to launder your clothes. She doesn't have to clean your house. She doesn't have to cook and shop for you.
Nope. Because
those things have been redefined, but yet the demand is still similar in the sense that a man should be a provider
and protector. He should still do all the same things that a man was doing in the 1950s, but he should get none of the benefits that the guy was getting in the 1950s.
And by benefits, you mean her service?
Pretty much. I mean, I don't personally agree with it. I don't need those things for women, but the thing is that that's what you're asking for, and that's not where we're at now. So I think marriage in itself needs to be redefined, but as it is right now, it's not appealing.
And for clarity, this marriage would be like what's promoted as the normal.
As the norm. This is what you should want. This monogamous marriage.
Because there are alternative marriage formulas.
Yes.
There are other religions besides Christianity.
But this is the predominant kind of culture in North America. So
the dominant cultural perception of marriage is one where a man is a provider.
Mm-hmm.
The woman is whatever she wants to be.
Now, yeah.
And what's missing there? That's pretty much the arrangement.
That's the arrangement.
And so you fought this for why some men view this as a bad decision or a last resort.
Yeah, it's not the top. It's not on the top 10 list for men. Like, I'm gonna get married. Like,
yeah, it's not join the military, or it is still. That's still very 1950. Join the military, get married. But most other cats have a period of like extended adolescence where they just
explore, find out who they are, whatever the case, man. Maybe find out what they like and don't like. The other thing I'll throw in there is that this thing, I don't know if it's 1950, I have to see the exact year, but remember, women weren't even allowed to hold property, or own property for a long time, or it had to be special occasions. I mean, so it's progressed for the better in that sense, but like I said, like, what need is there to get married? Like, if you're doing everything on your own, besides sex with with a partner, like, what do I need that for?
Again, I think the number one reasoning is to be in a household with mother, father, and child or children, and that would be the most stable environment for a child. So that's what's promoted. Like, you get married as part of your responsibility to your future children.
Right.
So that's the agreement, is that this is the best possible environment for a child to evolve in. Which
has been proven false anyway, because if the parents aren't compatible or don't like each other, that child is still going to grow up dysfunctional, as opposed to if the parents were just co-parenting and they were functional and cordial with each other and didn't have animosity in the house.
So men don't seem to be socialized to be married in the same ways that women are socialized to be married, because you don't see dolls, you don't see little boys playing house enough. I know these things are being challenged currently by certain households, but generally speaking, you'll see girl children in their make believe, in their fantasy worlds, still speaking of marriage and still having Ken doll and Barbie get married. Houses, kitchenette, toy kitchens are still giving the girl children.
What's giving the boy children?
Baseballs. Guns. Oh, guns. That's
guns, football, sports.
Yeah.
Like, our action figures all
nothing
fight.
is compatible. Yeah,
let's get it. Like, it's not. We're not socialized for that.
So these boy children aren't socialized for this, and then when they do, they get in a bastardized version or an outdated
concept of what marriage is, just to find out that what marriage is nowadays is not that. Also, I mean,
what's that? You
just talk about, like, I don't know if men are even emotionally prepared for marriage and what it entails. Like, we're not, boys and girl children are not even they're not conditioned the same on that level. Like, boys are taught to repress their emotions.
I see what you're saying.
So it's there's a lot on it. There's different things, but I mean, viably, like, to have somebody, to marry somebody, to tie your income to them, it ain't looking sexy out here.
What do you mean? What's that?
Just, you're like, everything's coming to forever. Like, there's a lot of forever in these things.
Oh, I hear what you're saying.
There's a lot of forever. It's a lot of commitment. And I have met many dudes who just say, I just want this one woman. I haven't met a lot of dudes who say that. Not to say they don't love that one woman, but guys, I've seen them, they like multiple women. They're attracted to multiple women. And even monogamy seems to be something that women want. They want that. And so they're kind of driving the culture and what marriage is now and what relationships should be. And so that's what we're kind of doing.
Just going along with something
going
that's
with the flow. A lot of dudes get married based off the fact that the woman will say, well, if not, I'm leaving. And they're like, oh, crap. It's an ultimatum.
Geeks and Goons.
Oh.